Before anything else, stop everything for a second. Take a deep breath and do something simple, but that can completely change the direction of your life from now on. Comment below with faith, with intention, as if you were declaring this before God. I will prosper. Don't just write it any old way. Write it feelingly. Write it believing, even if deep down there's still doubt. Because it's not about how you feel now. It's about what you decide to believe from today onwards. Now let me ask you a question. What if everything you're experiencing today isn't a setback? What if it's not bad luck, nor injustice, nor abandonment, but rather a process? A process guided by God. A process that you don't yet fully understand, but that is taking you exactly where you need to be. Most people look at their own lives and only see what's missing. They look at the problems, at the difficulties, at what hasn't worked out yet. But almost no one stops to think, what if all this is preparing me? Because true prosperity doesn't begin on the outside. It begins within. It begins in the mind. It begins in the heart. It begins in the way you see yourself, and especially in the way you see God in your life. And here is a truth that can transform everything. God has never lost control of your story. Never. Not even when you thought everything was falling apart. Not even when you cried silently. Not even when you thought no one was seeing your struggle. He was there, in every detail. Even when it seemed like silence, it was care. Even when it seemed like a delay, it was preparation. Even when it seemed like loss, it was protection. Just like in that content about transformation in 90 days, there's a process happening within you, but this goes far beyond discipline or habits. This is spiritual. This is profound. This is God working on your identity. Because pay attention to this. Before God takes you to a new level, He transforms who you are. Before opening big doors, He builds a strong structure within you. Before giving you something bigger, He prepares you so you don't lose it. And this is exactly where many people fail. Because people want the promise, but they don't want the process. They want the result, but they don't want the transformation. They want to prosper, but they don't want to trust. And perhaps this has been your mistake until now. Maybe you've looked at your life and thought, nothing is happening. I'm standing still. I'm behind schedule. But the truth is different. You are not standing still. You are being prepared. Every difficulty you faced strengthened you. Every disappointment taught you. Every closed door protected you, even if you didn't understand it at the time. And let me tell you something very serious now. There are things God took from your life that you would still be grateful for if you knew what He prevented. There are paths you wanted to follow that would have destroyed you. There are people you wanted to keep who would have distanced you from your purpose. But God, in His care, intervened, even without you realizing it. That is love. That is care. That is protection. And maybe now you're in a strange phase. A phase where it seems like nothing is moving forward. Nothing changes. Nothing happens. But pay attention to this. It is exactly in this type of phase that God works the most. It is in silence that He builds. It is in the unseen that He prepares. It is in the process that He strengthens. Because if everything happened too fast, you wouldn't be ready to sustain it. And prosperity without preparation becomes loss. But prosperity with God becomes purpose. Now think about it. Why do you feel that something greater awaits you? Why don't you settle for an ordinary life? Why even tired, even discouraged sometimes? Do you still have that feeling that you were born for more? This is not by chance. This is a calling from God, a calling to grow, to evolve, to prosper. But not only financially, to prosper in mind, to prosper in emotions, to prosper in faith, to prosper in life. But there's a decision you need to make, and that decision changes everything. Will you continue looking at what's missing, or will you begin to trust in what God is already doing? Because the moment you change your perspective, everything begins to align, even if it's not yet visible. And perhaps today is the day of that turning point for you. Perhaps today is the day you stop doubting and begin to truly trust, even without understanding, even without seeing, but believing. Because when you trust in God, you stop living in anxiety and begin to live in purpose. So once again, if this speaks to you, if something inside you has awakened, comment below with faith. I will prosper. And keep this in your heart. You are not alone. You are not late. And you have not been forgotten. God is taking care of you, even now. Even at this moment, even while you still can't see it. Now I want you to stop for a moment and think about your life honestly. How many times has something not happened the way you wanted? And then you realized it was for the best? How many times has a door closed and later you understood that it saved you from something worse? How many times have you thought you were losing, but in reality you were being protected? This is not a coincidence. This is God taking care of you. But there's a detail. God's care doesn't always come in the way we expect. Sometimes He doesn't give, He takes away. Sometimes He doesn't open, He closes. Sometimes He doesn't draw you closer. He pushes you away. And then we question. We doubt. We think, why is this happening to me? But the truth is, while you're looking at what you've lost, God is looking at what He has saved you from. While you feel the pain of the moment, God is protecting your future. And here's something very powerful you need to understand. God sees what you don't see. He sees paths you can't even imagine. He knows people even before you meet them. He knows exactly what each choice can generate in the future. And that's why many times God's no is in fact the biggest yes of your life. But let me tell you something even deeper. God's care doesn't mean you won't go through difficult times. It means you won't go through them alone. He is with you in the process, in the pain, in the doubt, on those days when you feel everything is heavy, in those moments when you have no answers for anything. He is there, even in silence, even invisible, but present. And maybe you are exactly in that phase right now, a phase where it seems like nothing is happening. You pray, but you don't see an answer. You try, but you don't see results. You believe, but sometimes you feel tired, and that makes you think God has forgotten you. But He hasn't forgotten. In fact, it is precisely at this moment that He is working the most. Only behind the scenes, far from your eyes, organizing things you can't even imagine yet, aligning situations, preparing opportunities, connecting people, changing scenarios, all in the right time. Because pay attention to this. God doesn't work on your time. He works on the perfect time. And the perfect time doesn't delay. It prepares. Because if everything arrived ahead of schedule, you wouldn't be ready, and what was meant to be a blessing could become a burden. That's why God works on you first, before working on your surroundings. He strengthens your mind. He matures your emotions. He increases your faith. He teaches you to trust, even when you don't understand. And that changes everything. Because when you learn to trust, you stop living anxiously. You stop comparing yourself. You stop thinking you're behind schedule, and you start living with peace, with direction, with purpose. Now think about it. What if everything you called a delay was God adjusting the details? What if everything you called a loss was God protecting you? What if everything you called silence was God working? This completely changes how you see your life, because suddenly you stop feeling lost, and you start to realize you're being guided. And here's a very important point. You don't need to understand everything. You just need to trust. Because when you trust, you keep walking, even without all the answers. And that's exactly what God honors. Faith, constancy, the decision not to give up. And do you know what happens to those who persevere? To those who continue even without seeing? To those who trust even without understanding? That person arrives. That person prospers. That person experiences something that most will never experience, because they didn't give up in the middle of the process. So keep this in your heart. God is taking care of you, in the details, behind the scenes, in the silence, even now, even at this very moment. Now pay close attention to this, because this can completely change the way you see your life from today onwards. Your prosperity has already begun. Maybe not in the way you expected. Maybe it's not yet visible. Perhaps it hasn't yet materialized as a result. But it has already begun within you, because everything starts there, with the decision, with the mindset, with faith, The moment you stop doubting and begin to trust. And let me tell you something very serious. God doesn't just prosper what you do. He prospers who you become. He works on your mind. He strengthens your heart. He teaches you to remain steadfast, even when everything seems difficult. And little by little, you begin to notice something different. You begin to react differently. You begin to think differently. Things that once shook you no longer have the same power. Doubts that once held you back no longer paralyze you. And that's a sign that God is working, a sign that you are being transformed, a sign that your prosperity is being built. Because prosperity is not an event, it's a process, and that process has already begun. Now there's a decisive point here, a point that defines whether you will experience all of this, or whether you will remain in the same place. Will you continue looking at what's missing? Or will you begin to value what God is already doing? Because when you change that, everything changes. Your energy changes, your attitude changes, your decisions change. And that's when things start to happen on the outside too. Doors begin to open, opportunities begin to appear, the right people begin to show up, and you begin to realize that it was never luck. It was never a coincidence. It has always been God, guiding you, protecting you, preparing you, and taking you exactly where you need to go. But remember this, none of this happens if you give up. None of this happens if you turn back. None of this happens if you let doubt speak louder than your faith. Therefore, decide today. Decide to trust. Decide to continue. Decide to believe, even when you don't see it, because that's what separates those who arrive from those who fall by the wayside. And I want you to do this now, not tomorrow, not later. Now, comment one more time below. I will prosper, but now with more certainty, with more faith, with more awareness of everything you just understood. And if this message spoke to you, if you felt something different while listening, then do the following. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay with us. Because there's more content coming to strengthen your faith, your mind, and your journey. And I'm sure if you stay strong, if you keep trusting, you'll look back and realize that everything made sense and that God never abandoned you. He was just preparing you. See you in the next video. God be with you.